moving into wild cards, which actually did do this well, but not particularly in this episode, but just in general, wild cards is seeding things in there for you, as far as putting a little spice, whether it's in dialogue or it's in moments between the two characters, which is something I actually really do enjoy about the show, that Max is really flirty and it works for her character. She can't seem to do anything without giving Alice a little cute little eye,
A little
before she
wink,
did
wink, little nudge.
a little nudge, or even in her dialogue with other characters, you could just tell that she is someone who fully lives in herself and is comfortable with
That
herself.
that opening scene with her pulling up in that boat, the levels of unseriousness, I was just rolling on the floor. Like, what?
It
Her
is
little
just so
outfit, it
delightful.
was so funny. She has an outfit for every, like, she shows up, like, she's in France in that boat, and then the next scene, she ordered a detective outfit. Like, how do you not love this woman?
Right?
And even not to jump away ahead, but I'm pretty sure towards the end when they figured out that the fighter had the same condition and they had to run out and tell her because it was obviously urgent before her fight. When Max makes the discovery, she's like, and walks off. And then when we see her the next time, she walks into the dressing room to confront the fighter, completely brand new outfit, fashionable as ever. And I'm like, you had time for an outfit change. I mean, like,
You got to
probably
get
the
into
wrong thing, but
character,
yeah, exactly. Not the right time to do it, but you know what? We stand you anyway.
And she's just amazing. That's why I told you already, she's my new favorite CW girl. Like I love this woman. She's
Yeah.
just amazing. And I do think one of the things I really enjoy about the show actually is they truly are breaking the quote unquote rule that you can't have too many pop culture references in something, because
Yeah.
she's a walking pop culture reference. She can't help but drop a line or two or make a reference to something that she enjoys.
I know I loved when he pulls up and she's like, "Does Fleetwood Mac go their own way?" For the first one. But he cut her off and I was like, "No, I wanted her to do a third."
He's already had enough. He's like, not this again.
But again, hopelessly endeared. He just truly is.
Hmm.
I think he smiles nearly every time she goes on one of her pop culture rants. Like he's exasperated. He's like, just get in the car. Get in the car
Hmm.
so we can go.
There are a lot of moments where very subtly you can see the way Ellis reacts to her. One scene that really stuck with me, and in the moment I was like, "Ooh, I love this," was when they were interrogating the wife of the other athlete
I think he's a basketball player.
in whatever case, after she accuses her of killing the agent, they're interrogating her, and she's like driving the boat, right? She's like full force. That's not her job, but she is interrogating this woman, and he's just watching her and looking back and looking back. And I don't, there was something about his face in the thing because they lingered on him, just taking in her doing this really well. And I don't know, I really love that moment. Not to get too in the weeds of like shipping like we have in the past, just like analyzing looks, but um I thought that was a really good character moment for Ellis to like to really see her as a partner that is doing this well, as much as he feels like he can't trust her because she's a loose cannon. Just seeing her in that element as like a not just somebody he's forced to work with, but like a partner. Like she's somebody who does this well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I know what you mean. You can look at that in a lot of ways, and I know you said we can put ownership goggles and look at it through that, but even just from a storyline standpoint, it also works really well. But that's one of the reasons I said I think during our first review of this, I love this concept so much because even if it's been done and done so many times, there's always ways to make it fresher, and it's usually done through the eyes of like the con or the criminal has to learn from the good guy on how to be a hero. But then two or three episodes in, you see that the hero or the good guy is learning from the con on how to do certain things. And he said at the beginning of the episode, this time you need to follow my lead. And like there we were in the first quarter of the episode, and he hung back and let her do all the talking and just watched her. Like this is kind of like season finale levels of growth, and but yet we're not talking about it right now. Like Alice is sitting back and letting her do her thing because it's clearly proven to be effective. I think we've seen this in other shows before where they throw in like silly conflicts flicks over and over and over again just to drag it out. So that's a real moment of growth towards the end of the season. But here we just got it so subtly in like a second episode, and I thought that was really, really cool. Um, I love their dynamic. Their banter is hilarious, but you see those little quiet moments like that. I think that really makes the story work.
I think so too. I think it also helps to establish their dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that it is growing already, even though they've only been on, at this point, three cases, because I will count the porch piracy case, which again, so unserious. But I think it does great to lend itself that as eccentric as she is, he does admire how she comes about solving the cases, even if she messes things up. Like this was the one point, and I was like, writers, come on now. She picked up the straw wrapper and put it in her pocket, but she's also a TV fanatic. She's watched enough procedurals to know she cannot do that. But for the sake of the plot, she did do that. And I thought he was like, but it didn't cause him to want to leave her behind, nor did her stomping up with the microphone in an accent to just accuse this man of murder in front of the rest of the press and cause absolute chaos. I think I like that it's not him trying to rein her in unless it's like you're messing the case up. Like, you really are. Like, you need to stop doing this because we need to focus harder. He does actually trust that she's taking it serious enough to not treat it as a game.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. We could like oh God, I love their dynamic so much already because they've already experienced so much together. In the first episode, when she went off and did her own thing, he came down on her like a ton of bricks, like you need to learn to trust me. Of course, she went off and did her own thing again, but this time she did it again, and he came down less hard. Oh, don't get me wrong, the chief he was complaining and moaning until his heart was content, but like Alice didn't. He didn't. He did say you need to learn to trust me, and she did promise him. And we kind of went over that in the pilot, and we kind of went over it again here. But like he's starting to take a step back and let her do her own thing, even if they have disastrous consequences, like that accusation that she made on camera. Because in the long game, it got them to where they needed to be. And I guess that whole like it sounds so predictable to say that their dynamic is the story here because it wasn't the pilot and it was again here, but I feel like this was even more of a fruitful episode because he did take that step back. He let her like kind of lead the investigation at parts. And I know we'll get to it shortly, but like when they reached that midpoint where they kind of butted heads over who was right and who was wrong, she was ultimately the one that made him see things the other way. So this was a Max episode and I loved it for that.
It definitely was.
Hmm.
I think that's what makes it so great too. I mean, I
Yeah.
just really I love their partnership. But I think because Max is so much in the forefront of this two-person led show, they needed an actress who could carry that weight. And obviously, Vanessa Morgan is doing that exceptionally. I also, what's interesting to me is they're walking into a lot of the same tropes you're used to for procedurals, and yet there's something about the delivery from both Giacomo and Vanessa that I just appreciate enough not to care that we're having the same conversation again. Like when he's
Yeah.
sitting there and talking to her about the law and how the law doesn't care about your feelings, it cares about what you can prove. I've heard it so many times. I've watched so many procedurals, but his
Yeah,
delivery was great.
there were a lot of like some scenes and there was some dialogue that was very like cliched, but like I don't know, I can forgive anything that's cliched if the rest of it is original and like spirited and has a point of view because like that scene with them in the car when she's explaining what happens to her mom, I was like, I feel like I've seen this scene before of getting vulnerable and even the circumstances in which the mother died off screen. Like she died in a car crash and then Ellis doesn't know what to say and it just kind of like hangs in the air between them. Like we've seen that before, but like I don't care. And also the was it MMA fighter when she was like, "This is who I am," this is who I'm meant to be. And I was like, "Okay, we've heard that," but I'm like, again, I don't care. Like it's fine. Like I know what I'm here for. I know what I'm getting. So I don't care if there's a few lines of dialogue in the show that are like, oh yeah, I saw that in the show before. But like whatever. It's fine.
Mhm.
It'll be okay. We'll survive.
Well, and it leads to great moments too. It didn't feel like a lot of those things were just added because that's what we say. And then
Yeah.
we move on. Like, because I feel like that was a really thoughtful and productive conversation between Max and Ellis
Yeah.
about the law and how it made her want to call her father and ask him. And then we got that very Robin Hood delivery about the motto for the family, which
Mm.
contextualized Max too. So it's like she didn't just steal from anybody. She steals from the rich. She steals from people who have it. And if anyone needs help, then she helps them. And I was like, oh, I like that. I like that that's the way that she's been brought up. So, regardless of what you feel about her criminal activity, she does have a code that she lives by.
Hmm. On a different show, that phone call between her and her father would have been a flashback. And that was what I was warning them not to do. And I'm glad that they didn't do it. I was like, the whole time he was talking, I was like, stay in the moment, stay in the moment. Don't flash back, don't flash back. Literally was grounding myself. I was like, oh no, oh no, no.
Was it when he started talking about that job they had in the South? Is that when you're
Yeah, I
like,
was like, oh no,
no?
just tell me about it. I don't need to see it.
Uh, oh, but to go back to the conversation about in the car, I don't want to put fear in anybody's heart, but I don't know. I feel like Mama's alive. I just
I
do.
know
I feel
you
like
tweeted that last night, and I was like, oh, I was just taking her at her word. I felt so like I feel like she had conned me into she lulled me into a sense of like safety and comfort of believing her. And I'm like, wait, she is this hella unreliable narrator.
no, I believe Max. I think her mama
I
did
know,
it.
but I just either way, I
Mm,
was just taking it at face value and just being like, oh, her mom's dead. Like, even if she was kind of like lying, which I don't think she would do to Ellis, but I do think she is capable, and I don't think that's not a knock on her. I just think she's very capable of lying.
hmm
Mhm. And this
Love her
show,
to death, woman's wrongs, I support it. But I also I didn't even think of the possibility that she could still be out there. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I'm
No,
with you now. I'm like, I kind of do want her to be alive. I don't know.
and this show uses the most basic of dialogue really, really well. Because I agree. I just took that totally at face value. I was like, oh, learning character moment. And then I saw your tweet as well, Sabrina, and I was like, that would be a huge twist because, like, when you watch things, it's like I said last week, when you watch things the second time, like, I should have seen that coming. Like, will that be one of them moments? Will we watch the season back when it ends and think, should have seen that coming? And if that's the case, you did see it coming. Um, so it is one. It's worth paying attention to because it was such a huge moment for Max to like open up like that, and there's so many layers to it. Maybe she's not opening it up because maybe it's a lie, maybe it is true, but she believes it's true, but it's not true in real life. So there's just again, everything could be so much heavier than just because the show uses dialogue so well.
It's true. So that thought though was brought to you by Scandal. It was. Olivia thought her mom was dead, and it's like, actually, no, your mom's an international terrorist.
Well,
And
here's the thing about some TV shows is that I mean, sometimes characters will be talking and they'll bring up somebody, and sometimes it is just like a one-off, like a throwaway line. But I feel like 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, somewhere in that ballpark, if somebody is being brought up, that character is going to be important later. Like there was a show that we watched like mentioned a brother, and I was like, well, when are we seeing the brother? I want to see the brother.
Hmm.
And then we did see the brother. I don't know what show that was. I don't know. We watched so much stuff that it could
me
have been
too.
any number of shows. But like I see where you're at here because I feel like it could just be like a character moment to like add a layer to Max of like she has that layer of hurt to her of losing a parent and why her relationship with her father is so important and why everything has informed who she is. But it also could just be an invitation for like episode 10, they're working a case and she's like, Mom?
Hmm.
Hmm.
And it's like a whole thing. But yeah, I don't know. Whenever we have these discussions, it just brings me back to like I love TV because it's like
Yeah.
anything's possible.
It is. Anything really is possible. And there's so many different ways, if she is alive, for them to explain why. that will affect, regardless, will affect Max as a character.
My mind was already spinning. I was like, she faked her death because she's a spy, or like, what if she ends up being involved in uh the murder of Ellis's brother? I was like, oh, there's so
Hmm.
many dots that it could connect to. That's if I have that thought, it's probably neither of those things. That's what I've learned. If whatever I think it could be, the writers are smarter than me, and it's not what it is.
One thing I don't, but speaking of people we do see though, I don't really care to see Alice's father, that we've mentioned him.
Mhm.
I believe he's alive. I don't believe Ellis lost his brother and his father. I think, because
I
Mm.
don't know. I've lost track of his family tree, to be honest.
he mentioned him a few times though this episode, which makes me feel like he is alive. But he's like, my dad raised me to be a cop. And I was like, something tells me I'm not gonna like this man. So I
Yeah,
prefer
because he
him
was
not to
probably
be on
mean to
screen.
Ellis, and I want to protect Ellis with everything in me. Sweet man.
Yeah, because he said it wasn't easy being in his household, right? Like
Yeah.
he said
Mhm.
it was rough.
That's why he likes to be on his boat with his cat in the silence. And now he's just got Max just singing.
And talking.
The the end of the episode was so funny. He's like that I didn't think it was gonna end where it ended. He was like,
Same.
"This is my favorite song," and it's just silence. Done.
It's this show is so funny though. Like I
It
just
is.
it's so like laugh out loud funny, but also subtly funny. And I really do enjoy that they have put in comedy. I mean, I'm trying to think of other CW shows that we have laughed at as much. And I'm thinking Nancy Drew, The Flash
Mhm.
earlier seasons. Superman and Lois can be funny, but I wouldn't describe it as comedic.
I
No,
mean,
yeah.
Dynasty had the lulls.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
Um, Wait, one thing I did want to bring up, it's just a small little thing. Sabrina, you watch more procedurals than me. Maybe Michael, you have too. But something I really like about Ellis and I think is really cute and endearing is that he uses his little notebook. And I feel like I haven't seen that a lot in like procedurals, and I think it's so adorable and like something about him that he is by the book and he likes to do things the right way and he's not going to forget anything. He's got his little notepad. I don't know. I've never really seen that in procedural TV, and I think it's so adorable.
I feel like they don't do it as often as they used to. I feel like the agents or the officers kind of just roll up and they
They're
talk to
always in their
you.
suits and they're like,
You stand in
"Tell me
there.
what's happening."
Yeah, you don't. I feel like there are characters, or there'll be times, especially if it's a new agent, who'll be there to flip and just trying to write things down. But I think they always just end up dropping it.
Mm.
He's so cute with his little notebook. And meanwhile, Max is just a bull in a china shop.
Yes,
It
that
does
one.
seem like so old fashioned. Like I think the last time I would have seen that was something like the early seasons of Gotham. You just Ben McKenzie in the notepad, but it had such
Mhm.
an old fashioned aesthetic. Like Gotham was so like Art Deco that one purposely like other Batman stories. But you're right, modern procedurals, you would never kind of see that thing. Like even these days, you'd think there'd be an iPad or something they'd be taking the information on
Ooh,
down
yeah,
on.
you're right.
So yeah, it's such an
Sabrina,
old
next
fashioned
time
detective.
you connect with Jack Mo, we're gonna ask him about the notepad.
Okay. We should make a notation of that.
Yeah, next link up with Jack Mo, we're asking him about
We're gonna
the
ask about the
notepad.
notepad. I actually do have a already tell
I
them.
mean, as a fellow, I know you love stationery and you love a notebook.
I do love a notebook. So like last time I got the cat question in there. This time it'll be the
This is
notepad.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Was speaking of Mark, he was wet in the beginning, right? He
Yeah,
was
he
all
had his little
wet
vest on.
and he was wet and he was like he
Yeah.
still looks fake, but he's so cute.
At times. Like the scene in which Ellis is talking to him, trying to go through the case. And I was like, Mark's on that pillow, but is that actually Mark? Or did they not have
He
Jonesy for the
was
scene?
I mean, he gave a performance. That was a compelling scene. I was
Mhm.
hooked on every purr.
That is funny.
It was a good scene. I mean, I can see why. Didn't Giacomo say that the scenes with Jonesy were a little tough sometimes?
Because cats do what they want, which
Yeah.
is so accurate. I mean, yes, Jonesy's a trained cat, but it's not the same thing as a trained dog. And it will get to a point where if Jonesy just doesn't feel like it, Jonesy's not doing it. That's just
Yeah.
how cats, I love cats. They just truly don't care.
And
Step
I
around
love
them.
that the
Divas.
show has a cat supporting character that is like
Yes.
a real character. Like I
Yeah.
Yeah.
want more scenes with them just chatting.
And like honestly, Mark feels like more of a character than any of the supporting cast. We haven't really rounded out any of those other detectives. Are there just to get in the way? The chief is there just to complain and groan. We don't really have anyone else in the cat apart from Jason Priestley, of course, but he like pops up once an episode, and he can't really go anywhere outside of the prison right now. Whereas Mark's just there. I feel like yeah, it's funny that we've established that character so well in such a short amount of time, but you know how Mark would behave in a situation, and I think that says a lot about how they've developed him so far. He just,
Yes.
there was a scene towards the end where someone was talking, and he just kind of looked like that, so expressive in his face. Love that.
I need Mark and Max to like become like besties like quickly,
Yeah.
where like Mark takes her side and she like throws it in his face. I think that would be cute too.
It would be, it's already starting because that ending scene when she's like, Mark likes it, and Alice is like, no,
Yeah.
he doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, I
And
mean, he
meanwhile, Mark's
might.
like, why am I in it?
I know. I'm just like on my pillow, luxuriating on the boat. What are you doing? But at this point, Mark is solving more cases than Yates and Simmons. Yates and
Right.
Simmons just like to hate and walk past the desk, which I was like, y'all got donuts. Okay, hush. How are you
And like
still?
specific, like Max was very, that was a very nice gesture. Like
It was.
individually chosen donuts based on personality type, and she clocked them all. I'm sorry. When she was reading the chief to filth with that apple fritter, I was like, "Whew, where was the lie?"
Non-existent, and I just feel like that she should be more respected at that police station. I get it, she's a criminal, but she's running circle around there. So
Mhm.
she just really is.
She's gonna own that precinct soon. So
She is. And she's gonna get them to put respect on Atlas's name. Because I think
Yeah.
she's starting to get tired of it too.
yeah, I love him. I love them both. It's just
Yes.
so cozy and comforting.
I love that description because cozy and comforting definitely is wild cards. I feel like that we haven't had necessarily that on the DCW in a while. Like we've been
Mhm.
really enjoying a lot of the television, but coziness hasn't
Although
really been the
next week,
element.
the preview, didn't they say there was like sacrifices, weird, like,
Hmm.
I don't know, it was giving Riverdale. I was like, Vanessa's
It
gonna feel
was.
right at home.
It did do all that. And it's fun also location shot because we are not in wherever in Vancouver. They're in
Hmm.
the majority of the show. We get to run around in the woods, which is
Yeah.
going to be fun. I think with the casework, I do like that all the cases are different. Like they're
Yeah.
really different. Like this
I've
one
never
with being
seen
a
a
sports
case like
agent.
that
With a sports
before.
agent, neither have
Yeah.
I.
It was really original and like compelling.
Yeah. I feel like I like that, unfortunately, that Jake's apology tour got cut short. But the fact that he was on one because of, like, he knew he was ruthless, but the idea that you would hide someone's heart condition in order to make sure that you got the millions of dollar deal just took the cake for him. He's like, I need to make things right because what is this? Like, I have never done that in my life. But the fact that I could have, not that I was responsible, but that in some ways, like I missed it. I couldn't help this athlete, this football player who passed, Danny, that's his name, who passed away from HCM. I can't help Summer though. And
Hmm.
he was really trying to help her. Bill Flair is evil and he deserves
Yeah.
to rot in prison.
Awful.
And the show kind of turned the trope on its head because he was the like smarmy and arrogant one from the beginning. And you know, when you meet that person, you're like, they're the murderer. And of course, they're never the murderer because they're potentially smarmy and arrogant to make you think that they are. But no, actually, the show turned the trope on its head because it turned out he was in the end, which I thought was quite fresh. And my goodness, did Max get him? You see the whole when she came up to him, told him how to turn the mic on, and then confronted him in the hallway afterwards. Queen icon, no one is doing it like her.
He was the one that flew into the precinct, right? And she ducked under the
Yeah.
desk.
Hmm.
Okay, wait. When she ducked under the desk, had they already interacted, or did she like not want to be seen before? I couldn't
Yeah.
like in that moment I forgot everything that had happened before.
At first, I was like, they didn't interact. Was it because she was pretending to be the like grief counseling secretary in the
Yeah.
office? But I don't think he
Which
didn't
that
actually
was
see her.
hilarious.
It absolutely was.
Apologies to that assistant because she was using her, but it was so funny.
It was.
But she also did help her with the grief though. It's like she was
She
using
did.
her, but she did actually help. So I mean, a win-win.
Yeah, she's a
Dialogue
good
in that
person.
the second scene between Max and the assistant was so funny, and Vanessa was just so hilarious. Although when she stole the mail, she didn't walk far enough away from her desk
No.
to
No.
start opening it
I
for
think
me. But
there's
I
no
was
one
like,
in that office. She will hear the envelope tear. Come on.
it's like, girl, we need to go into a locked room or something.
I know. But with Bill though, I did like that he ended up being a person because you always wanted to be that person. And like you said,
Yeah.
Michael, it doesn't tend to be. And you're like, it should have been though, because I hate that man. So now that
Right.
it actually was. And just the one thing though, I with the Mike, I was like, is that admissible in court though? She lied, which is entrapment.
Mm. See, I wonder that as well, because usually when someone says, "Oh, I recorded this on my phone," it's never admissible in court. I figured because the police were kind of involved in this, it would be. But then again, she's not on the payroll. She lied to them. I don't know. We said last week we don't know how the law works in this show. I guess that might be a question we're going to keep asking.
Yeah, I had a brief thought of that, and I was like, whatever, he got, I don't care.
Yeah, I thought about it and I was like, I'm gonna let her have the win. But I did, so I was like, that's technically entrapment. But I also think in some ways this is it's a procedural, but it's also kind of soapy. And in
Mhm.
soaps, how you get the person is how you get the person. There's just and how they eventually don't uh get convicted for the crime is also like sure if you
Mhm.
said
Mm.
so. I mean, they did that with Bold and the Beautiful. Somehow, Sheila, even though she admitted to killing two people on microphone in an FBI investigation, somehow the judge said that he has to let her off because of how because of how it was done. And I was like, I feel like why wouldn't the
Seems like they just
FBI
didn't
dot
want
their
that character
I's?
in jail for
Yeah.
episodes.
Oh, they didn't. She'd already been in jail for a while. They just wanted her free, so we could get back to like making for her
I
love
mean,
story with
I'm
Deacon
convinced
too.
that's why Blake never went to jail in Dynasty.
Yeah, that makes
Seems.
sense. Yeah. Because that man should have been in jail from season
Mistrial,
two.
whoopsie.
Yeah, but I do kind of when you get used to that though, you're like, okay, fine, fine, because it is a show that like it's realistic to a point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
like
it's like
once
it's
you
also
accept
it's
that, it's
like do
fine.
you yeah, they should go to jail, but also like it would be boring and annoying if we had episodes upon episodes of somebody in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's not what the show's about. Just as like a viewer, things get tiring.
yeah. Well, just like with George for wild cards, eventually he's gonna have to leave the prison. We
Yeah.
don't know how that's gonna happen, but eventually she cannot just keep calling this man or visiting to get
It
advice
would
from
be
him.
nice if like even before he got out for good, if there was like a case that involved like a prison break and he got out or something but he has to go back in before he gets out for I don't know. I think it would I don't like when shows make definitive choices because you can never go back on it. And if you do, it just feels like you're like, oh, that didn't work out for us, so we're going back. So I think the show has an opportunity, not just with George in jail, but like also their relationship, because I think too, in a procedural, like an odd couple thing where like eventually Max is going to have done so many cases that she's learned to kind of like even out, and some her antics might not be as cute. So like that's a fine line to walk. Like how quickly do you let Max grow and how long do you let her like be the bull in the china shop is just like how long is that going to be charming? And will the show get boring if eventually down the line she does kind of like get even tempered and meet Ellis at his level? I'm saying like season three, four, like that's going to take some time, but like I mean, it has an opportunity to kind of navigate that. And I think so far, so good, 2 episodes in.
Mhm.
Mhm. I agree. Well, also, I like too that for the show, there is sort of we have a goal to reach for Max and Ellis right now, and it's the 2 months. Like,
Hmm.
so, and then obviously, that's probably going to be the end of the season. And then it'll be a decision on like when we end the season, will they decide to be partners? Will they decide to go separate ways? Will Ellis be off the police force for a season if we do season two, and he actually has to do some things that Max does? In order to solve something. There's so many
It all
things,
sounds so good and juicy.
Mhm.
right? It's
I,
just
f-
so it's exciting.
I feel like it'll reach a point where they could be like, you're no longer needed to Max, and Alice will get his job back and it'll all be good. And they'll be excited to go their separate ways. And then he'd be like, I can't do this without you. Do you want to be like my unofficial consultant? And then that could very easily be a season two storyline. And then, but obviously it wouldn't be as accepted by the precinct because she's no longer officially, unofficially part of the team. So there's so much room for growth. I do like that they gave themselves that original end game, so that, like you said, I guess that'll take us to the season 1 finale.
Mm.
And again, the ratings for CW good for episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And there's only, well, I was gonna say there's nowhere to go but up, but that's not true. But that's what we're manifesting. We're manifesting it to move up in its
Yeah.
ratings.